Can you give me 5 minutes? Because in just 5 minutes, I can make you an expert on invasive species. Seriously, let's do this. We're going to be talking about invasive species, basically the planet's most unwanted guests. These aren't just visitors, they're here to take over. Okay, so here's our game plan. First, we'll nail down what an invasive species actually is. Then we'll get into their secret weapons, what makes them so good at what they do. We'll look at some of America's worst offenders, pop over to Australia for a crazy story, and finally, see how we're actually fighting back.
So let's get right to it. What's the real difference between a species that's just new to an area and one that becomes a total villain? Well, here's the official breakdown. An invasive species isn't just from somewhere else. It's a non-native that got here because of us, because of humans. And this is the most important part. It causes harm. We're talking harm to the environment, to the economy, or even to our own health. And this is so important to get straight because people mix these terms up all the time. A native species, like a white-footed mouse, belongs here. It evolved here. A non-native, like a honeybee in the US, was brought here by people, but is actually helpful, right? But an invasive species, that's a non-native that causes damage, like the crazy kudzu vine.
So how do they even get here? Well, it's pretty much always our fault, whether we meant to do it or not. Sometimes they're just tiny stowaways, like zebra mussels in the ballast water of a giant cargo ship. Or they're hiding in wood packaging, like the emerald ash borer. And then there's the stuff that's hard to believe, like people releasing unwanted pet pythons into the wild, or kudzu being planted on purpose to control erosion. Okay, so that leads to the next big question. How do they get so good at taking over? What's their secret weapon? What makes them so brutally effective? You know, they basically show up with this massive unfair advantage. First off, there are no natural predators. Nothing in this new place has evolved to eat them. They're also super aggressive, just bullying native species out of food and space. They're not picky either. They can handle new climates, eat different stuff, and the real kicker? They reproduce like crazy, just flooding the area with babies. All right, let's meet a few of these villains. Here's a little rogues gallery of some of the most famous, or infamous, invasive species in the United States. You've probably heard of this one. Kudzu, the plant that ate the South. It was actually brought over from Asia to help stop soil from washing away. Seemed like a good idea at the time, right? Well, the problem was it never stopped growing. And get this, kudzu can grow up to a single foot, in one day. It just covers everything, trees, houses, cars, anything. And it smothers the native plants, blocking out all the sunlight. Now let's head from the land to the water. In the Great Lakes, you've got the zebra mussel. These tiny little guys hitched a ride here in ships and have been causing absolute chaos ever since. They are filter-feeding machines. And the havoc they cause is just insane. They suck all the food out of the water that native fish and mussels need. A single female can lay up to 1 million eggs a year. 1 million! They multiply so fast they completely clog up the giant pipes that pull in water for cities and power plants, costing millions upon millions of dollars. And then there's this little guy, the emerald ash borer. It's a beautiful beetle, but it's an absolute nightmare for every ash tree in North America. And it's not actually the adult beetle that's the problem, it's their babies. So, how does this tiny thing kill a giant tree? Well, the larvae burrow under the bark and they just chew through the layer that pulls water and nutrients up from the roots. The perfect way to think about it is this. It's like someone poking a ton of holes in your drinking straw. No matter how hard you suck, nothing gets through. The tree literally dies of thirst. Of course, this isn't just a US problem. It's happening all over the world. And for maybe the most epic cautionary tale of all time, we have to go to Australia. So believe it or not, Australia's massive rabbit problem started with one single guy who just wanted something to hunt. That's it. But with zero natural predators and a warm climate where they could breed all year long, the population just exploded. They ate so many plants it caused huge erosion, and they literally starved out the native animals. It was a complete ecological disaster. So before we talk about how to fix this stuff, just let this number sink in for a second. $120 billion. That's the estimated cost of invasive species in the US every single year. That's everything from lost crops to damaged industries to the value of your house going down because all the trees on your street died. It is a staggering amount of money.
Okay, so the problem is obviously huge, but we are not helpless. People are fighting back, so let's look at how we're actually defending our ecosystems.
The fight really comes down to three main strategies. Number one, and this is the big one, is prevention. That means making laws, like not moving firewood around or making people clean their boats. Number two is just good old-fashioned physical removal. People getting out there, organizing volunteer groups to pull weeds, or even hunting invasive animals like pythons. And number three is super interesting. It's called biological control. You basically fight fire with fire and introduce a natural enemy from the invader's home country, like a specific wasp from China that only hunts the emerald ash borer.
And all of this brings us to one last, kind of provocative question. We've seen how one species, moved around by humans, can cause so much chaos in a new home, which really makes you think. As a species that has spread to every single corner of the globe and changed every habitat we've touched, are we an invasive species?
Thanks for giving me 5. Hope you learned something. Make sure you like, subscribe, and drop a comment below.